Welcome back to the Bold Beautiful Borderline podcast. It's Sarah, and I have Laura here today. Laura, how long has it been since you've been here? Like a year, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was last March. So like right around a year.
Okay, a year. I'm so excited to have you here because we're going to get some updates on what's been happening in your life. And I'll have you introduce yourself. But before we get to that, I just have to say, and you probably can see this already, it's like a weird ADHD morning for me. I'm feeling a little scattered. And we were also just talking about, like, I have a couple clients to see this afternoon, and you're like, I'm impressed. And I was like, I fucking hate it. So one of the things that I'm personally struggling with is a shitload of burnout. It's like really, really, really hard right now. I'm sure everybody listening who works in the field has been finding that. I've been working in this field 14 years now. So I'm just like very, very tired and struggling with my Medicaid therapy because many of my folks are worried about houselessness, worried about not getting their EBT, worried about their kids being deported because their children might not have citizenship, but they do, all sorts of messy stuff that feels like so out of our control right now. So if you're in the field, keep fighting the good fight, but take care of yourself. I'm having a really hard time figuring out how to do that. And so, Laura, if I'm not able to show up the way that I was able to show up a year ago in terms of like really getting into your mental health with you, I just want you to know that that's why, and it's not because of you.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, of course. That being said, I have to just run through this with somebody. Are you okay if we talk about sex for a second?
Sure.
Okay. As a queer person, which you're going to introduce yourself, I was just listening to a podcast, and it was a straight cis couple. And they were talking, like, they have one of those things where people will ask them anonymous questions and then they do the answer or whatever. And one of them was like, I masturbate next to my husband in bed while he's sleeping at night. And their answer was like so strange to me. The husband was like, I would be so pissed. That's so embarrassing. How could she do that? That's so gross. And the girl was like, I don't fucking understand. And they just went all in on like, he must not be like pleasuring her good enough or whatever. And as a queer person, I'm just like so confused because that's like not abnormal. Like, I know a ton of people who masturbate at night next to their partners while they're sleeping. And even if you like are like, okay, well, that's not for me, to completely like slut shame this girl for doing that and for like exploring her sexuality in her own home next to her partner who she obviously trusts to do that with. Why are we going to automatically assume it's like because her husband can't give her an orgasm? Maybe she's just like, it's 11:30. My husband's been asleep for 2 hours and I just like want to jerk it really quick. I know I'm not crazy because I'm very pro sex and like pro like women touching themselves and whatever. But the way they responded, was that not so weird?
I think that's so weird. And also I like haven't determined exactly yet, but I'm like some kind of ace. So I extra don't understand it because to me, I don't know, that seems kind of polite. Like,
yeah,
like my husband is sleeping. I don't want to wake him up. I'll just take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that perspective too. And also, why would we like leave our bed?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I personally have done both, but not like left my bed because I didn't think it was okay, but more was just like, I really like don't want to feel embarrassed if I do end up feeling embarrassed. And that's my own internal stuff and not related to my husband. But like, even if I did feel embarrassed and I got up in the middle of the night to masturbate and then came back to bed, I 1000% expect that I'm not shamed because of it.
Was it the husband or the wife that sent that question in?
It was the wife.
Oh, okay. So she was like, did I do something wrong?
Yeah, I think she was like, sort of like, can you give me some perspective on this? Because this is the first time I've done this.
That is very confusing to me. And admittedly, a lot of sex things are confusing to me, though.
We're on two opposite ends of the spectrum here. Yeah. But I love your perspective as somebody who's like not, And I can't even like well define what ace is or being on that sort of like asexual spectrum. Like I don't even have a concept of that because it's not my lived experience. But as somebody who like maybe doesn't experience as much like sexual desire or whatever, however that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, for you to still realize like there's nothing wrong with that, it sort of shows how like narrow-minded, straight, cis people can be. Not everybody. I know some people are doing the work and we love you, but like queers are just better.
I love you.
I love you too. Okay, so Laura, so introduce yourself, introduce your pronouns, introduce sort of like what we were here talking about a year ago. I have a very exciting sense of like, oh, I'm such a good clinician. Not that I was your clinician. Let's just make sure we say that. But I had a hunch and it turned out to be right. So catch us up.
Okay, so I'm Laura. I use they, them. I am non-binary, bisexual, maybe ace, question mark. The thing about that is like, it's kind of like there's just no desire. Like people will like be like, oh, I haven't in so long. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's fine. And the thought, my immediate thought anytime people like talk about it is like, that would take so much time out of my day and night. Yeah, so last time I was newly diagnosed with borderline and I was thinking probably ADHD, which is really funny to me now, a year later, because I'm like, ADHD is a huge part of my identity now.
Okay, right. So let's go back really quickly. You were like, I think maybe I have ADHD. And I said, well, have you taken the ADHD self-assessment tool? And I believe, did we go through it together?
Yeah, on the podcast.
Okay. And then how long after that did you take those results to somebody and talk to them about it? What happened between that conversation and your diagnosis?
So at my next therapy session, I like brought it up. I mean, I did brag a little bit because I was like, I was on one of my favorite podcasts, just so you know. But and my therapist, I love her so much, but she is not
She
on
thought
the
it was
same.
bullshit, huh?
No, not that. She's like not on the same level as me of like wanting labels. Like she's like, no, let's treat like the symptom and not, which like I get.
You can't.
But
you can't with ADHD.
I just don't think you can.
You can, like with ADHD, you can treat the behaviors, but you can't treat the symptoms. Medication is the only thing that can treat the symptoms.
That makes sense. Yeah. So honestly, my main thing for her was I was like, I think I might have OCD. And I was like, it wasn't the same certainty as ADHD, but it was like, I've like done a lot of research and listened to a lot of podcasts and like heard the perspective of people and like a lot of it is relatable. And I was so worried because I was like, if I do what we're doing, it's not helping. Like it's making it worse. And I think, yeah, I don't know. She just like, I want to be so clear that I love her so much. So I'm not like talking shit or anything, but yeah, so that felt like a really long tangent for what your question was. Sorry.
Did you go get formal ADHD testing? Did she refer you to a psychologist? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So she referred me to someone. It was friggin' like $500 that I still haven't paid yet. And the results for that test, which I did take like a while to do that test because anything medical is scary to me and I have to like call people on the phone, which is not something I want to do. But which also I got a new psychiatrist out of that because my old psychiatrist and me were not, I can't remember if we talked about that on the podcast, but yeah, my old psychiatrist and I did not work well at all together. But my new one I love. And we were like going over the results of everything. And she was essentially like, yeah, you have like a ridiculous amount of ADHD. And that's the cause of a lot of your problems. I was like, great. So she put me on a medication for it. And then she gave me a few other things that were surprising to me. Like she told me I have bipolar 1, which I did not expect. And I still don't really like relate to it. Does that make sense?
Hey there, I'm Bellamy Young. I'm an actor and a producer. I've been working with the global humanitarian organization CARE, and I am so excited to invite you along for my new podcast, She Leads with CARE. Each week, you'll meet some incredible women who have changed their lives and their communities.
We raise our voices for people who don't raise their voices to defend themselves.
Listen to She Leads with CARE now on your favorite podcast platform. New episodes every Tuesday.
Yeah. You still relate to and agree with your BPD diagnosis, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever experienced what you believe to be mania?
So we had like a conversation about that, me and the psychiatrist, and I'm still not really sure about it. But from like what I described to her, she was like, yes, I think that you would qualify, but it's not like
For
a major
bipolar 1? Normally
Yeah,
you wouldn't be like, yeah, I think you would qualify. Bipolar 2 or like bipolar atypical, that conversation is more sort of normal. But normally with bipolar 1, you're like, yeah, I've seen it and that's that. Right? I would think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I'm glad to have your opinion on it, because my old psychiatrist, when I first went to her, specifically saying that I have borderline and I would like medication to help with it, she was like, I don't think you have borderline. I think you have bipolar. And I was like, oh, I don't think you're right. But after that, I started looking into it more. And I also felt like I was like, maybe bipolar 2? Like, so, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the interesting thing is sort of like, and I even just recently have been learning about this because I had a very like rigid perspective of what I thought bipolar was a couple of years ago. And, you know, as I further into my career as a clinician and partner with more psychiatrists and psychologists along the way, more training, all of that, I now sort of have this understanding of like what we thought typical, quote unquote, typical mania looked like. There is a very high co-occurring rate between borderline and bipolar disorder. In fact, many people don't realize that. I think the highest co-occurring diagnoses with BPD are like, obviously, your depression, anxiety, PTSD, substance use, right? And some of those things people might not even qualify for because it's sort of like captured under the BPD label, you know, like whatever. We could talk about that forever. But then like autism, bipolar, and ADHD have very, very, very high co-occurring rates with borderline. And the sort of way that borderline and bipolar can influence one another can look like a lot of rapid cycling and a fuckload of agitation. So that can be how mania presents, is like, it's not your typical maybe mania the way that you would think about mania with a person who doesn't have borderline, but it's like can present as really high, frequent agitation sustained for a consistent period of time. And when I learned that, I was like, that's very interesting. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And I now sort of can see how the two influence one another. Whereas in the past, I couldn't contextualize it. Like I could not wrap my head around it. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like a psychiatrist told me that too. That was that's real shit that I learned.
I think that's really interesting. I think I can see that more, because the part that we struggled with was the I don't remember what it's officially called, the happy side of having a manic episode. I was like, I've definitely had like depression for long enough to count, but like I don't know if I've ever been like had like that high for enough days in a row to count. And I think we settled on like, because I have a shit memory, so I think we settled on, she said like, well, if you've had like maybe like 3 or so in a row, then it would count. And I was like, that seems more reasonable. So I think that's why we like said
and is that If a provider, though, is saying that to say, I want to replace your borderline diagnosis with bipolar, then I'm like, I don't trust you. But if they're saying in addition to your borderline, then I would say, me personally, not you, and I'm not giving advice, but if this was me, I would be like, okay, I'm more willing to entertain this. But if they're just trying to replace my borderline diagnosis with that, then I would say that's some internalized stigma that you need to look at that I don't need to look at. But the other thing is, like, people with bipolar typically don't respond very well to a stimulant or antidepressants unless they're sort of like looped in with some mood stabilizers and antipsychotics and stuff like that. So I think personally, it's interesting that there's such a high co-occurring rate between the two. And it's like, when you have both, I think it can be really messy to figure out what's what and what's influencing what.
Yeah, absolutely. No, what you described of like instead of borderline, I think that's exactly it, because my first psychiatrist was like, no, you don't have it. You have bipolar. And also like said that was the first time I feel like I experienced stigma for borderline, because she said some things that I was like, ouch, what the fuck? Like, she told me she doesn't think I have borderline, and I asked her why, because she would like never explain anything. And her reasoning was that, first of all, I have a very large support system. I have a lot of friends, and people with borderline don't have friends because they're so like violent and aggressive that they drive everyone away. And that I don't like throw things and break shit when I get angry. And
okay, well, I've done all of that. But I'm on the more severe borderline end. This was really unfair to you.
Yeah. Well, and she also told me that like my biggest issue wasn't feeling unloved. And I was like, what have we been talking about for the past 4 months? Like, that is my single biggest issue. That's where all of my issues come from. And I told her, like, yeah, all the things you're describing, like, I just do it to myself. Like, I punish myself for things. I get mad at myself. Like, I destroy my own shit through self-sabotage. Like, and when I told her that, she just kind of like, like, oh well. This is like, okay, I need a new psychiatrist. We are not working out.
I'm so proud of you for advocating for yourself in that way. Like, it's super easy to feel so rejected and just shut down and demoralized in those conversations that you just are like, okay, fine, to just start like gaslighting yourself and not trusting yourself and sort of being like, okay, well, you're the professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've gotten shit wrong a lot in my career, and there's been times that people have told me that, and I know there's been times where I wish people would have told me because it would have helped me grow. But I'm really proud that you pushed back and got a new provider.
It was really hard. Oh, but it felt so good to do it. So yeah, if anyone is in that spot where they're like scared to get a new provider, dude, the relief afterwards, it's so worth it.
Yeah. And you just had a lot of insight about the ways in which the symptoms can present from a sort of like, there's no technical term for this. There's just the social term of like quiet borderline.
Yeah.
Which is real.
Yeah.
I externalize, but you internalize.
Absolutely. And for me, I feel like that's a lot of how I grew up, because a lot of like my parents was me being responsible for my mom's emotions and like not being allowed to express anything. So like it had to go, all those emotions had to go somewhere.
Totally. Does bipolar run in your family?
I don't know. My family is not, we don't take care of ourselves. So we don't, I don't know a lot about like my family history, because no one ever goes to a mental professional or anything. Mental health professional.
Yeah, that sucks for people like in your generation and your family that are trying to figure it out. It's like so unfair.
Mm-hmm. I'm like very convinced my dad has ADHD because so many things he does. I'm just like, yep, that is all of the ways I present.
And so getting your ADHD diagnosis, were you so happy? Were you just like so relieved?
Yeah. Oh my God. It was so nice. It felt the same as getting my borderline diagnosis where I'm just like, I'm not just like a lazy piece of shit. There is a reason for it. And now maybe I can start fixing it.
Yeah. And like, I mean, is it fixing it or is it creating a world that works around it? Like for me, that has been both beautiful and like really sad because I had to look at the ways in which my relationships were not borderline friendly. Like I can't be friends with or connected to people who have really rigid timelines and expect me to do something on like an XYZ timeline or are going to get really upset when I cancel or like cancel last minute. I know that's a shitty thing to do, but it's not because I don't like desire closeness or want to show up and have that, you know, coffee or go for that walk or whatever. Although anyone who wants to be my friend should know, like, don't ask me to come sit down and have a meal until we've been friends for like a year or two, because my eating disorder gets so fucked with that, or history of eating disorder. But I need people to understand, like, and really listen to me when I say, like, my ADHD is making it impossible to get out of the house right now. Like, or like, I know that the other day I thought that I was going to be able to drive the 2 hours to see you. And this morning I like the thought of driving makes me want to kill myself. I cannot. And so trying to figure out how to have friends, and most often they have to be like neurodivergent friends who get it. Like those are the people I need to have in my life. And also like never going back to a 9 to 5, never going back to something where I'm expected to be in an office every day. Like those are the ways that I have to work my life around my ADHD in order to be successful, instead of like just forcing myself to be in that world. That's never going to work. It's always going to make me feel shame. Like you said, like hate yourself.
It's impressive to me that you are able to like cancel on people. Does that sound weird? Because I feel like I've gotten better about it now where I'll tell people if I just like need to go to sleep or something. But I feel like it's such a terrible feeling to have to cancel. I mean, I'm sure like you know that. But anytime I'm like listening to the podcast and you talk about that stuff, I'm just like, oh, goals. Like I need to be able to tell people that I just can't do something tonight.
I mean, part of it too is I don't actually really have friends. So like, you know, it's not like it comes up very often. I think when I think about canceling on people, it doesn't hurt me as much as I think about the severe devastation of trying to force myself to do that thing that then could look like a huge like disaster in the community that would make my friends more uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? Like if I lose my shit and freak out and they're just standing there, sometimes I almost feel like I'm saving them from me. And I think that that's something I need to work on, because obviously that's like part of what's isolating me.
Yeah. I think I get that.
So what else has been going on in your world? I know that you've got a new podcast, but are there any other things that have been like really cool or interesting or that you're proud of that you want to give updates on compared to where you were when I saw you last?
Sorry. Mostly just the podcast. I just got back from a vacation where I did a Jinx cosplay. That was exciting.
What does that mean? I know Jinx is a character, but from what?
Originally League of Legends, but I did the Arcane one, the TV show. And it took so long, and I did her fishbones, which is like a huge prop.
Yeah, because people who cosplay like make their their outfits and
Mhm.
their art often, right? Like I have
Yeah.
a kid next door. This sweet baby next door is like 14 and she makes like the most intricate, beautiful, like fucking wolf heads that she puts on.
Ooh,
So cool.
that looks so hard to do. I am always so impressed when I see that because I don't think I could do that. Oh, something that kind of came up that I wanted to talk about. Also, in my during the testing, my new psychiatrist said that there's I think she said like a medium to high likelihood that I have autism too. And I really liked this. She was like, there's not really much in like the like medical way that it would help to know that, but she was like, I know that it's important for a lot of people just to know, so like if you want to pursue that, I can like hook you up with who to go to because they didn't do that at their facilities, which I so appreciated because my last one was essentially just like, well, that doesn't matter anyway, moving on.
So will you go try to get the testing?
I don't think so, just because it's going to be expensive.
Yeah,
Like,
have you done the RADS?
what's that?
Oh my God. Okay. In your third episode, you're going to come back and have an autism diagnosis.
Okay.
1 second. RADS, RADS. RADS, assessment, autism. The RADS are evaluation. Okay, so this was created at one of the universities as well. It stands for RITVO, which must have been, RITVO was one of the people who authored the final tool in 2011. The RITVO Autism Asperger Diagnostic Scale. Obviously, we know we don't use the word Asperger anymore, but again, this was 2011. It was published in 2008, the original one, and then the new one, 2011. It has 78 questions, so we're not going to do it right now, but it helps determine if you could meet criteria for autism based on your language, your ability to relate socially, sensory, motor, and your circumscribed interests. And I'll send you the link. But it's funny because my husband is off the fucking charts. He is so autistic. Actually, I'll email you the link later. He's so autistic. And so, take the RADS and then tell me. But what are your thoughts about being autistic? There's a high co-occurring between people with BPD and autism, but this is interesting, very high co-occurring with folks with autism and gender dysphoria and transness.
Yeah. I feel like there are a lot of things that come up that like puzzle me about people's behavior. And I have a friend who is autistic who is just essentially like, yeah, this is another thing that makes me think that you're autistic. But I know that there's just a huge amount of overlap between that and ADHD. So I'm always like, is it just the ADHD? And am I right that there's also a pretty significant amount of overlap between that and borderline? Okay, yeah. I think you had said that earlier.
It's interesting. People with autism or autistic people are so often like ostracized in childhood, right? And they don't fit in very well, and they have these social struggles and whatever in childhood, which can often lead to the development of borderline because that's its own sort of trauma.
Yeah. You know what? I grew up very isolated from anyone who did not go to church. So, yeah, I was like a church kid that was my only form of social engagement. And the church that I went to was full of mostly like snooty kids who didn't like anyone who was a little bit odd. So I had like 2 friends in high school, like 2 like consistent friends. And then I would get friends and then they would be like, yeah, you're kind of weird. Actually, we're going to go off into this other group. Which also probably didn't help with the borderline. So.
Yeah, that's a really good example of how, like, because borderline, yeah, there's a genetic component, right? But we know that it's definitely often born of and triggered by trauma. And so, like, in terms of the chicken and the egg, the borderline is so often the egg, right? Like, the chicken is the trauma. And being autistic has a very unique trauma. Being raised in a household with, inattentive and cold parents is trauma. Like, there's so many different things that we could give as an example that could lead to the development of borderline. But you and Talon should totally talk about the autism stuff. If you're like not sure and you want to talk to somebody, he loves talking that kind of theory. He loves it.
He sounds like the nicest person I would ever meet. So that sounds fun.
Oh my God, totally. Yeah.
I love when he's on the podcast so much. I'm like, yes.
Really? Because I worry people get sort of sick of it. But he's so smart.
If he was on every single episode, I would be so happy.
Okay. Good
and
to
you
know.
2 are so cute together. So
we really work at it. We really, really work hard at the relationship. In fact, yesterday, it's been a really hard couple of months. And I don't know, yesterday, I started a new med. I started my first antipsychotic, and it's really made a big difference, right? It's been really fascinating how helpful it's been. The other day, something happened that had previously would have probably made me pretty angry, and he reacted. Like, he got really snippy, and I was like, yo, what is up? And he was just like, I think right now I'm pretty primed to be defensive after the last few months because of like how borderline-y, for lack of a better word, you've been. And I was just like, ooh, that sucks to hear. Like, it's hard to hear that, but also like that's really important for me to know, because it like, then I have to be a little bit softer in my like response to his defensiveness and not meet it with defensiveness, because there literally was nothing that I was dysregulated about, but he was afraid of my dysregulation. And then that could prompt some like shame for me. So yeah, I'm really grateful at how hard we work for it. And I hope it's a indicator of like how capable we are to have relationships.
Yeah.
We don't feel like we are often.
It really shows like anytime you 2 like almost get into it and then you like work through it, and it's always just like oh, that was so mature. And like I can tell that they put a lot of work into it. That's so nice.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
we do. Are you partnered? No. Okay. Are you dating?
No. I don't really like, it doesn't really matter to me. Like, I feel like if I had someone, I'd be like, oh, that's really nice. But like, the desire is just not there.
Do you think that's a part of like being asexual? Or do you think that's just like where you're at in your life currently?
I don't know. This is also a thing that I've been thinking about a lot. I feel like it is part of it, but like, I don't know to what extent.
Yeah, I know there's sort of like aromantic and then asexual, and the 2 are not the same.
Yeah. I feel like I do lean more towards the aromantic. There's like, oh, I can't remember a name for it. There's like a name for like when it's not a romantic relationship, but it's like the same like love. I don't want to say the same level of importance, because that seems so dismissive of not romantic relationships, but it's like a like long-term partner, but not romantic. Does that make sense?
Like a platonic life partner?
Yeah. Like, I feel like with that, I would be like, ooh, that sounds really nice. Like, yeah, I'd take that.
It's almost like a gay best friend.
Yeah.
Like a Will and Grace. I've loved catching up with the mental health side, but let's switch gears. Tell me about your podcast, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a podcast called Lazy Fox Creates. It is named after my Etsy store, which has now somehow become like secondary to the podcast because I love the podcast way more. It's all about the crafting experience. And so most of my episodes are solo and they're just like 10, 15 minutes, me talking about like I have a whole year's episodes planned out. So I was going to say some random thing, but it's definitely not random. And then about once a month, I get a guest on. And I've convinced Sarah to come on with me. So that's going to be fun. And it just started this January. So it's still like a super baby podcast, but I love doing it. I actually have a second podcast too. It's about gaming. It's called We Fix Games. And me and my co-host talk about a game and then essentially jokingly talk about how to fix it. Because sometimes we actually love the game and we're like, how do we like fix this when it's already perfect? So we come up with some like bullshit way.
I love this idea. So it's sort of like reviewing games and then what you think would be making it better.
Mm-hmm,
Oh,
yeah.
that's so cool. That's so cool.
Do you play games? Like video games?
I don't because of the sort of like ADHD thing. Like I never can play something all the way through and then that frustrates me. So I think I like as a kid, because I could never play anything all the way through, but my little brother could, I just sort of was like, nope, I'm not a gamer anymore because I kind of compared myself to him. I would love to revisit it, but honestly, like I really just would like to play like Crash Bandicoot and shit, like childhood stuff. So, yeah, cool. I love it. So the crafting and the gaming, and then what are we going to be talking about on the podcast?
I love anytime you have talked about doing you do like traditional art, yeah, as like a way of like helping you express your emotions.
Yeah, it's funny because I like super love to I love traditional style tattooing and sort of the culture of that. And obviously Talon tattoos and his tattooing is traditional style. And that's like what I'm covered with. So I've just been playing around recently with like the fonts and like the ink and stuff like that. But every single night, no matter what, I have like a whole bucket of Sharpies that I pour out and I've got a ruler and I am like, just going at it with like random squiggle designs, and it's always centered around like some sort of statement in the middle, which has been interesting. I'd love to go back, like, because I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I'd love to go back and see what all my statements are, especially like the political ones. But it's been really helpful for me, and just like I said, like especially like during political times, there's been ones where I'm just like, fuck you, Trump, or like, I hope you die, Trump. Sorry for everybody who's offended by that, but like really my life would be a lot better if this was not happening, and a lot of people's would. So yeah, that's just been a fun way of expressing myself, but I'm not good at it. And I'm certainly not doing like traditional like pinup girls or anything like that, but I really want to. I'm just afraid. Do you experience fear with your art?
Yes. Not as much as I would expect to, though. It's like there's this weird separation of like all of the mental shit I have going on and my art in a way that like I can actually do the art. Cause I'm like really hard on myself normally when I fail at anything in life, and somehow like I do leatherworking, that's like my main thing. And somehow whenever I fuck up with that, it's always just like not always, absolutely not always, but often it's like this very calm, like, okay, this is messed up. Like, what can I do in the future to fix it? Which is totally not me at all. Like, I'm always hard on myself.
I think that like art and writing and like, because I do a lot of poetry, is the most beneficial way that I've experienced expressing myself and like getting my feelings and emotions out. But I also think that the borderline way is to sort of like, if it doesn't look the way that we think it does, then we're not good at it and we need to stop, all of that self-sabotage that you're talking about.
Yeah, there have been a lot of times when I make something and I absolutely hate it and I like show it to someone and be like, look at how bad I did. Because it doesn't match what I had in my head. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, this is gorgeous. And I'm like, oh, is it? It's not what I wanted to make. So I just assumed it was horrible.
Yeah. I hate it. I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hate that.
What you were saying reminds me of, actually, I used to have a journal. This was like when I was like in high school, and I would have music playing like on my earbuds, and I would just listen to it like at a crazy volume, and I would like angrily write down lyrics that were happening, and I would like doodle and like do like designs on it and stuff. And I mentioned that recently to my therapist, and she was like, wait, you don't do that anymore? Even though you said like it helped so much getting the emotions out and like clear your head of it so that you didn't linger on it for days and days. Why did you stop doing that? Like, do that again. It's like, oh yeah. So I did it a little bit ago, and I was like, holy fuck. How did that? This is like magic.
Yes. I love it. That's sort of similar. Like, we're doing the same thing, it sounds like, with like the words and the thoughts. And yeah. I love it too. Well, my friend, I have to pretend to be a therapist in 7 minutes. So what is one thing that you want people to know about your journey between when we saw you last and you here now?
It was very surprising how quickly, after getting on medication, things started to improve. This time last year, I hated myself a lot, and I thought that my life was going to be horrible forever. And now I'm at the point where I don't feel like I hate myself anymore. Maybe I don't like love myself like you're supposed to, but I don't like regularly go through that like, you're such a piece of shit and like you're never going to be anything and why do people even love you? So I guess, yeah, I just want to say like, this is going to sound cheesy, but like, don't lose hope. And if you are thinking about like seeking help and it sounds scary, which it is, like, it's so worth it. And if you have like friends who can support you and stuff, go lean on them, because you'd be surprised at how supportive people are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people will surprise us if we open up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Laura, dude, thank you so much for being here. I hope that we do this again in like a year. I want more updates. Your journey has been so cool.
Yeah, next year. Hey, guess what? I am autistic.
I know, right? Okay, do the RADS. Do the RADS
yes,
assessment.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah, think about it. If you want to talk to Talon, you guys can I'll totally hook you up. Fuck, you guys can podcast about it and I'll like go for a walk or something. How fun.
Dude, I literally have in my notes that I'm like, would Talon also be on my podcast?
Talon would be way better to be on your podcast than I would. He is the artist in this family. So yes, he will. He absolutely will. Hi, listeners. Thank you for tuning in to the Bold, Beautiful Borderline podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode today. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your content. That is super helpful for me. It helps us find additional folks who want to listen to the show, want to feel seen, family members who want to learn, and partners who want to understand. If you want to follow along to more than just the podcast, find us on Instagram at Bold Beautiful Borderline, find me at Borderline from Hell, or head over to boldbeautifulborderline.com where there's information, resources, a place to leave a voicemail to be heard on the podcast, which I love, and just general content. All of that information can be found in the show notes.
And if you want to get exclusive content, which is bonus episodes, journal prompts, worksheets, all sorts of extra stuff, sometimes videos of me with my hair very crazy with kind of impulsive, borderline rants, head over to Patreon and consider becoming a member. That is super helpful with creating content that allows me to destigmatize BPD and all of the other wild mental health struggles that we discuss on the podcast. A huge thanks to everyone who joins on the podcast to share their story and just generally helps keep this thing alive. Especially my friend Corey Evans from the Evergreen Band. He produced and created the music that is the intro and outro for this show, as well as the cover art that was created by my husband, Talon Abbott. Their information is found in the show notes. All of the information discussed in the podcast is purely personal experience. This is not medical recommendations. This is not therapy recommendations. There's no producer for this show. It's all me.